Hello, we're going to be exploring a really quick tutorial in how to use Tinkercad. This is a simple CAD software tool which you can design your own objects to 3D print. The blue grid here that we see is the work plane, and everything we create is going to be built onto this. You can move around the build plane by right-clicking your mouse and dragging. This is orbiting. Or you can hold down the roller trackball on your mouse and you can pan from side to side. You can also navigate up here on the left. There is a cube that you can select different facets of to move to different plane views. You can also zoom in and out. On the left there's a plus and a minus button that you can zoom in and out with, and you can also zoom in and out with your roller trackball. Okay, so that's kind of the basic navigation. Let's start building something. On the far right, we have a palette of basic shapes, and it's kind of an elevator of different things that you can drag onto the build plane. So I'm going to grab a sphere and what's called a roof shape. Now, you notice that when I select one, all of a sudden there's different points on it and a black cone up top of it. This little black cone raises it up and down off the build plane. And as I go lower, you can see when it's at 0 that it's flat on the build plane. Any object you drag from over here will automatically sit on the plane. If I wanted different shapes, I could also go over to the right and click text or symbols to bring other things into this space. I'm just going to bring over a Y. All right, so I have 3 objects on my table now. Let's say I want to create a really simple fish. What I can do is select my sphere, and you'll note that there's little dots on it. I can distort it by grabbing the black handles, or I can scale in proportion holding the shift key and dragging out a corner handle. If I orbit so that I'm looking more sideways on this, and I select my shape, I can also grab the top and make it taller. And if I do a Control Z, it goes back. What I want to do now is make a tail. I'm going to thin out this triangle shape. And if I zoom in, you can see that there are 3 arrows on any shape that is selected. These arrows represent rotation in the X, Y, and Z axis. I want to lay this triangle flat. So I'm going to select this arrow and hold the shift key so that it rotates in 90 degrees. Then I'm going to rotate it with a different arrow so that it aligns with the body that I'm creating. If I go sideways, I can squash my tail a little bit, and I can drag it over to my fish. The important thing about 3D printing and designing in CAD, specifically designing in CAD, is that you need to rotate your view plane many times to be sure that you have things aligned. It's very easy to drag an object onto the board and look at it only from one angle and think that it's attached. If I move this Y here, I might think, oh, it's attached to my fish. But actually, if I go into bird's eye view, it's very far away. All right, so I'm going to show you something else really interesting that Tinkercad can do. You can take any shape, and I'm going to go into basic shapes, and I'm going to grab the rounded roof and make it thin. And I'm going to turn this into a negative shape. If you look up here in the shape, there's a color palette. I could change the color, or I could turn it into a hole. And I want to turn this into a hole because I'm going to make a mouth for my fish. I'm going to find the arrows that enable me to rotate it so it's flat on the build plane. Oops, let me try that one more time, holding the shift key and moving it 90 degrees. I'm going to rotate it again using this other arrow. So now I have this wedge, this like lemon slice wedge that I can drag over here, and you can get a preview of how, once I group it, it will eat out of my positive shape, this egg shape. But I must group it for it to actually eat out of it. So I'm going to use my arrow keys and move it just a little bit. Then I select both the body of my fish and my negative shape. And I go up here. If you can see on the top right, there's an icon for grouping. And when I select that, and I have both my objects selected, you can now see that that negative shape ate out of the positive shape. Now let's say I want to use the Y as a fin, a side fin. Well, I can move it closer to my fish. I can move sideways a little bit and find that black cone to drag it upwards so that it is embedded partly into the creature. Now let's say I want to not only angle this, but have it mirror onto the other side of the fish. In order to do that, I select the object and I say Control D, and then I go up to this icon here, which is flip. So I click on flip, and there are 3 arrows accessible to me showing me what it will do if I select that particular arrow. Well, I want this one, so I'm going to click on this arrow, and now I'm going to use my keyboard and use the arrow keys to move it to the side. And I now have that Y fin mirror reflected in the exact same angle. And I'm going to orbit it and look at it. If I want to make my tail larger, I can select it, hold down the Shift key, and drag out one of the corner angles and move it closer into my fish again. And let's say we want to add eyes. We could just add little spheres. Again, holding the Shift key down, dragging in a corner. Let's say, just so we can see this better, I'm going to change the body into orange and move this eye here. Now I have the eye right near the body, but I need to raise it. So again, I'm going to use that black cone to raise the eye. And let's say this is exactly where I want it. I can copy it, Control D, go up. Well, actually, I don't need to mirror reflect it. I can just use my arrow key and move that second eye to the other side of the fish. Okay. If I want to share this, I first would want to change the name. If you look up in the upper right left, it has a very odd name that it auto creates. So I'm just going to call this Ocean Plastic Fish. And the reason I'm putting ocean plastic in there is there's an opportunity to submit your design to a collaborative project. So I'm just going to put ocean plastic there. And I'm going to go into this little icon here that says My Design. I'm going to click on ocean plastic and the gear next to it. And I'm going to make it public so people can access it. And then close out that window. If I click in the top left corner, the Tinkercad icon, I can see all the designs I've created. And if I click on this one I just created, I can see where the link is to share it. So I can copy this and share it to a spreadsheet of print runs. And then down here I can share my thoughts and comments about why I created a fish. And then you post the comment. And that's it. Thank you for watching.